Hello, welcome to the Square Base Show with your hosts, Rob and Val. And today we're going to be helping you decide which battalion box is best for the old world.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Some quality information on this episode, Robert.
Pretty exciting. I think one of the questions that we get asked a lot in the YouTube comments, and thank you to everyone who does leave YouTube comments or on our Patreon, people do ask a lot, want to get into the old world. We're going to make a bunch of beginners stuff, I think, over the summer. I think there's going to be a big uptick in the amount of people who are really excited about getting to the old world because Cathay's on the way. And one of the things I know,
why would that be?
I know, right? And I think one of the things you've been really excited about as well is just what is the value and the quality of these big battalion boxes to start us off, and for people to start off, or even people who are like, I'm thinking of jumping between, either jumping over from 40k, I'm going to start into the game, or you know, I've already got an army. Which army should I get next? Are these battalion boxes worth it from GW? Great question. And we're going to try and solve that today, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard not to spoil the rest of our content. So I'm just playing poker face. Who knows how good of a value old world battalion boxes are?
This is a thing you've been you can just say it. You've been excited about this for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the sort of double-edged swords of one of the biggest, perhaps, Achilles' heels of the old world are old models, and the fact that it's part of SDS. But there's two awesome things about old models and SDS. One, SDS, for some reason, undercuts the other half of Games Workshop and how they price things. We're going to see that. And then two, they've priced older models at sort of an older model price point. You get a lot of them in each box, so that's pretty cool.
You do, especially, yeah, and they're a great way to get a bunch of like some of the newer kits for like the two starting boxes. So yeah, loads to break down. So we're going to dive straight in, but do let us dive straight in. Let us know if you did pick up any of the battalion boxes and if you felt like it was a good deal in the comments below, and also let us know like if you felt like that these weren't things that really like were perfect for the army that you wanted to collect. I know there's a lot of people really excited about obviously the release of Wood Elves and also Beastmen, which we'll be covering now. So this is kind of a good early kind of conversation about those, which is really fun. And I know Val will have done some timestamps, so you can jump to those convos when we get there. So we're going to start off with the two launch boxes, which do put us in a kind of an interesting position. We'll start first with Tomb Kings, the big box. So inside the Tomb King box, you get yourself a Lich Priest on Necrolith Bone Dragon. So that's one of the new sculpts. Like this isn't something that's 20 years old, repackaged. This is a new sculpt.
Literally one of two new plastic kits for Old World. Oh, nope. There's the Dwarf King on Shield Bearers.
There's also the Knights on foot for Bretonnians. You used to never see them.
That would be the second.
Oh.
The third's the Dwarf King. And I think that's it.
No, what about the guy on the Pegasus? BSB on the Pegasus, is he not plastic?
Oh, correct. Yeah, okay, 4. We're up to 4. To 4.
So Lich Priest on Necrolith Bone Dragon, Tomb King on foot, 40 Skeleton Warriors, 32 Skeleton Archers, 16 Skeleton Horsemen, and 3 Skeleton Chariots. But because this is like a quote-unquote launch box, you also get the Old World rulebook. You also get the Tomb King army construction list. You also get a reference sheet. You get 20 dice. You get some scatter dice, which is actually quite rare. You get 18
templates.
Yeah, you do get 2 whippy sticks, and you also get the 3 weapon templates as well in translucent orange, which are actually, I think, holdovers from Necromunda. I don't know. Maybe they're always orange.
Don't forget your misprinted cheat sheets as well.
Yeah, misprinted cheat sheets too. So let's just move the book, the whippy sticks, the templates, everything to the side for the moment, because those are this kind of additional extra thing. How do you feel about the miniatures in this? Like, what's your first take on what's in the box?
Well, I mean, this one is perhaps one of the initial lunchbox letdowns of the whole thing, because if there was a miniature that you were going that we would have hoped to see updated right off the hop, it's the humble skeleton warrior. It's the derpy skeleton horseman. I like the chariots. I think what I've come to find is that people have kind of gotten over it, and that the Tomb Kings, I think, made up for their derpiness in incredibly good rules.
Okay. Yes.
They're very, very good at in a number of builds, a number of styles, and this core set here gives you access to a couple of different like good starts towards a lot of the best ways to play Tomb Kings, and is a good, flavorful selection of units just for Tomb Kings in general. So yeah, if you can get over the big hands and weird chattering smiles, these guys are a pretty good value box here.
Yeah, that Bone Dragon, definitely just a key element in many different lists. Very functional, very good. Kind of everything else is secondary in some ways. Not necessarily. People do love a bunch of archers, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, lots of. Go on. What are you gonna say?
I'm just gonna go to bat for every single unit in this box. I faced when I was playing in a tournament recently. On the table. So, the probably not as spearmen, definitely as archers. The skeleton horsemen often are run as like nice little skirmishing units. I guess the only thing here that maybe doesn't get a lot of play are the spearmen as opposed to the archers. And also chariots. Chariots get used quite a lot.
They do.
They're a perfectly good, cheap core filler. And then of course the Bone Dragon, he's got 2 characters. Right, so that Bone Dragon has a Tomb King as well as a Hierophant, Lich Priest. Thank you. Which you can magnetize or set up or however you want to be able to just pop them in and out. So that way you have them on foot or on the Bone Dragon. So yeah, there's tons of stuff going on here. The only real downside is, are you offended by these models? If the answer is no, then you're going to have a great time. So the cost of all of the pieces of the Tomb King box is about $495 USD, so US dollars. And then, of course, if you buy it as the starter set, it's $299. Of course, you have the rule book in there, so whether or not that's of value to you is a different question. I think they're probably something you can always sell. But that still gets you to $425, total value over the $300 upfront, and you're getting dice, templates, whippy sticks, and some, again, cheat sheets that maybe aren't accurate. So that's to me pretty amazing value, and it's also like 1,200 points.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a moment. Just to talk about the cost, because if you were to buy this individually, right, it's much cheaper than if you were to pick up the parts individually, which I think is a big question people ask themselves. Like, or some of those elements are also really hard to find. Like the templates are hard to find. The dice are really hard to find as well. So,
scatter dice specifically, yes. Yeah.
I would say that like maybe this late in the day, the rule book's a tough sell nowadays to sell on. I think that's, I think, but it also, if this is your first, if you're getting into the hobby, you need the rule book. It's a great way. Like, it's a really cool book, the Big Teal book, as many people have affectionately mocked us for calling it. You've got a good opportunity to like read through it, get inspired. So I guess that's cool. We'll say the same thing, but
it looks great on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. But I think ultimately this is cheaper than if you were to buy the parts individually, and that's the big selling point, right?
Yes, and I mean, a lot of times when you get those boxes that have a bundle deal, you have to think to yourself, well, am I actually going to use all of these things? Like, are they actually any good? Like, will they just sit in, yeah, sure, I'm getting a bunch of stuff, free or like at a discount. But if it's a bunch of stuff that you don't want to use anyway or aren't very useful, then who cares? Yeah. These guys, on the other hand, pretty useful. So I think overall, it's a stonking good deal.
Yeah. Like you said, the points of the box, 1,200 points. So it's actually the best value for pounds to points in miniatures, I think, of all the boxes we're going to review, which is pretty decent. Obviously, you can really, this is the upgraded versions of many of these models. So you can add a lot of magic items and points, especially onto that Bone Dragon character, to really bump up. Like, you're close to maybe a 1,500 point army available to you from just this, which is pretty amazing. From that box, so it's good value in almost it being an army, right?
Yeah, I mean, with those two characters that you can get, like you have a caster and a Tomb King, so you could probably juice this up pretty far like as far as like points are concerned. If you really just did not want to like spend one more dime, or you just want to get the absolute maximum value out of it, you could definitely get there. And I'm sure you could find, someone who's got archer arms that they're not using and make the spearmen archers instead of spearmen. I'm sure there's ways to like really just wring every ounce out of this thing that you can. And then, but fundamentally, this is the only box that comes at a discount with a dragon. So that's also like a very handy, valuable, cool thing. Not only does it just look cool, it's useful in game, as people may or may not know. Dragons are good in this game, especially ridden by characters.
Well, that's a great segue into bringing up the next question. Is that would it be good to start an army with this box? And I think we've solved that already. It's got a dragon in there. That's both good for playing in tournaments, but I think also I'd say also playing at the local club. It's a little strong. If your opponent's got a dragon, you could throw them at each other and have a bit of battle in the middle, which is fun. Otherwise, if you're playing a smaller points game, there's a lot of like small units that you can definitely build around and just leave the dragon to the side. There's enough there that you can maybe leave the dragon to the side in a smaller point game as well. So I think this is a really positive and good box for starting an army.
Yeah. The dragon itself, like I said, just because of the way this one's built, it was literally standing in like a little platform. So there's ways you could have them so that you could like pull them out and put them on a base. So if you didn't want to run a dragon, because again, maybe you're doing an escalation league or something like that with your friends, you just pop them out of there, put them on a base, and now they can rock out in one of the spearman units or one of the archer units, or just on foot somewhere. So yeah, this is really flexible, really great set. I think actually, as far as starters go, this is pretty phenomenal. It's very good.
Next question, which I think we're probably always going to say no to, is should we get 2 of the boxes? This is an especially bad one for getting 2, I would say. Double rule book, 2 things to sell.
Oh, yeah.
Don't want that. Double templates is actually really good. Quadruple whippy sticks, unless you're planning on doing a General Grievous reenactment. I think I could leave that to the side. But what do you think? 2 boxes of these? Big no?
This, I guess it's just how much you covet the value of that second dragon. It's not unusual to see a Tomb King army running 2 dragons, but I just find that the way Old World tends to be built, this one you could contemplate a second one of these, I think, for sure, if you're willing to sell a rule book or if you have someone who needs a rule book. Because you're right, like a stack of dice, super useful. Extra templates, very useful, because they're used in the game for like magic vortices, things that stay on the board, and you kind of need them to stay out. Sometimes you need more than one, especially if you bought a second box and have a second caster. So yeah, it's possible that this could be worth doing a second time, but yeah, I think more than likely better to just start going a la carte.
Very fair. Okay, now finally, how are you going to rate this out of 5 stars? And also in the comments, give us your 5-star rating for each of the boxes as we go through them.
We're going star. We're not Bassus. We're not going. There's no fish rating here.
5 fish. Yeah.
This is a 5 out of 5 fish for me.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you want to say why?
I think for all the reasons we highlighted, you get a very complete army, very little fat in here, like things that you just would never possibly use. You get a rule book that at the very least is very pretty on the shelf, or usually you can sell. There's a pretty massive like savings to the retail cost of everything. Even when even if you just threw the rule book in the recycling bin, it's about 50% off of like buying things individually. So yeah, I think it's just a really good opening salvo from Games Workshop on this one.
Yeah. Now I know that we're going to talk a lot, and a lot of the miniatures are all going to be of that kind of older generation. I'm going to put this at like a 3 out of 5 for myself. I agree with all of your points. I think I absolutely understand that like it's a great value, and obviously you're entering into the old world, so you're not too bothered about maybe how some of the models look. But that dragon is the kind of key element for me. It feels like the reason I want to pick it up. The rulebook, obviously, I'm not too bothered about. I think if you're new, it is a 5 out of 5. It's probably you're probably bang on. I think maybe if you're not new, maybe you've been in the hobby a while. Maybe if you're a little bit more okay with not getting a rule book because they're online and a bunch of other stuff, I think maybe I would let this slide. I think that's how I'm going to feel about Bretonnia as well. But like as a, 5 out of 5 is outstanding, right? 3 out of 5, it's your average. It nails it. That's great. I think that's very okay.
Yep. The only thing I would say, Rob, is that there are some twisted psychos out there that love the old models and they make them feel good inside. So,
listen,
I know that's why that's 3 to 5 to 5 rate. Because the flip side is there's people who are like, this is disgusting. I hate it. I'm mad that GW didn't release a bunch of new stuff. Stay tuned for Cathay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I also think there's some stuff that holds up better. Like I think the Beastmen Beastmen holds up better as an example.
Yes. These are one of the worst core. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So 3 out of 5, 5 out of 5. Let us know what you think. Let's move on. So next up, we have the other launch box, Bretonnia, which is pretty popular, very popular. You got a Lord of Bretonnia on Royal Pegasus, one of them much elusive plastic kits or new plastic kits, 12 Bretonnian Knights of the Realm, 36 Bretonnian Men at Arms, 24 Bretonnian Peasant Bowmen, and 2 defense stake bases. Please never forget those. And then 3 Bretonnian Pegasus Knights, as well as the rulebook, the WP6, the dice, the Templar, and everything else. How you feeling about this box?
Well, that's a total value of about $435 US. And so over retail, including the rule book, that's about a savings of 40%. So not as stonking big of a deal as a Tomb King box. However, I still, again, as far as like a starter set is concerned about getting out and getting useful things for your army. Just like the Tomb King one, I feel like this is also quite good.
Yeah, I would say, like, especially if you're talking about playing the game, which is kind of what we're talking about, you get the Pegasus Knights. That's a good, nice, different unit that plays very differently to your infantry blocks. And you've got a lot of infantry, which is very cool. You have the Knights, the classic, although it kind of feels like the Pegasus and the Pegasus Lord, obviously, are overshadowing the Knights to some degree. But you got to use them in a grand army. You got to use the Knights of the Realm. Exactly. So I think there's lots of really fun stuff here. I think it's exactly what maybe you would want if you were thinking about playing Bretonnia. I think if the Knights weren't there, you'd be like, this is kind of weird. But the peasants and the Knights is a fun initial build. Like you can immediately say to yourself, I'm going to do every Knight different. You'll do the first one, and then you'll say to yourself, okay, actually, I've still got like 60 models that I'm going to change my mind and do them all the same. So that's okay. Yeah. Like I can make that mistake early. So I think, it's a good collection of units. It's 2 lots of Knights, 2 infantry, and some little special things. But it's nice. It's diverse enough, I would say. I don't think what would I like to see in there or swap out? I don't think I want to swap anything out. I think I'm okay with the range. I think that's good. You might not use every single one of these things every single time, but there are definitely builds of Bretonnia that would use all of these elements. From the derpy old model perspective, I think you have some. Personally, the Men at Arms are same vintage, I think, as the Tomb King Skeleton Warriors. Like they've got like really big pole axes and things like that. But I love their huge pavés shield. They have a lot of character. They got a drunken friar that's a part of them. They're just, to me, Men at Arms are one of my favorite old returning kits. I think they're really, really cool. The Knights of the Realm hold up fairly well, I think, aside from maybe their total scale, like their size relative to that giant new Royal Pegasus as well. However, I think that this again is a very useful set. The Pegasus Knights are at time of recording one of the boogeyman units out there. So if you're looking for this may not look as powerful as a set that comes with a big old dragon, but the Pegasus Knights, believe me, are very, very, very good out there. And the either the Baron or the Duke on the Royal Pegasus, also an element that's in every single Bretonnian army, regardless, just about. So yeah, you got a lot of really, really useful kits here that there's probably too many. Like you just never would have to buy any more Knights of the Realm. You're never gonna have to buy any more archers or Men at Arms.
and use them as you wish.
So, like you said, the cost of the kits individually much more expensive than if you were to buy these on their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good deal. Obviously, with same conversation about the rulebook and the whipping sticks as we had with Tomb Kings. So I'm glad this is the last one of these we have to do, which is good because I think it kind of confuses the issue a little bit. Points in the box though is quite interesting for Bretonnia. It's about 200 points cheaper than the Tomb King one. Obviously, no dragon, and also you can kit these out with a lot of upgrades. So that Peg Lord can get upgraded a lot. You can add a lot of little bonuses here. Not too much, but enough. I mean, would I have liked to have seen a damsel in here? Maybe that would have been too much. I don't know. I think we know that magic is so important in the old world. I feel like any box that doesn't just immediately says, here's a wizard, is kind of like saying, okay, cool, I've got to go buy a wizard as well. But yeah, the 1,000 points is still, I think it's our second best value box in terms of points.
Yeah, in terms of points, in terms of discount, the starters are definitely the best value there. And that's largely because they do come with characters. And because once you remove the characters and the rulebook and all the extra bits, I think they're basically the same as the battalion boxes that we're gonna look at. Usually, one or two different units of infantry, and then either a monster or some cav or some chariots or something like that, right? So they're a little more comparable once you drop the characters. But yeah, I like I said, if you like Bretonnia, one of the sneakiest ways GW I think maybe addressed some of the reticence about collecting Bretonnia is that they gave you permission to paint it all the same color. that was a excellent play on their part, because I think that was one of the hardest things about Bretonnia was individually heraldic knights.
Or are they just in the studio like doing their P&L sheet and being like, I cannot afford a member of staff to be painting a Bretonnian army for 3 years. That is just not feasible. That's the real.
Probably crossed their minds.
Okay, so next question is going to be: would it be good to start an army for Bretonnia? I'm going to just straight out jump out and say yes, absolutely. Like 11 out of 10. Couple of bombards and you're ready to go, and a wizard.
Yeah, I think so. One thing we didn't mention with with Tomb Kings, but also with Bretonnia, the same thing applies. There are these arcane journals that then give you different ways to build armies, like alternative armies. Every army starts with a grand army as the sort of basis. You're sort of like the most Bretonnian of Bretonnia armies. It has selections for everything, and then arcane journals introduce rules for being able to have armies of infamy, which are a little like more specialized. So you lose some of your unit choices and you add some restrictions in exchange for usually some cool rules and items and stuff. They're really fun. So they let you theme your army a bit more. The two that are probably some of the best in the game are the Bretonnian exiles, who are folks who've been kicked out of the royal kingdom or fled it and are now living in the border princes. And then, of course, the mortuary cults, who are the spooky priest sect of Tomb Kings. Both of those armies are outstanding, and would easily take models out of both of these starters. So yeah, you got lots you can work with.
Yeah, this is a super competent box for just building an army, I'd say. I think this is very good, and also like you need only buy the Terror of the Tables, the Green Knight, throw them on there, and immediately you're causing everyone a bit of a nightmare.
And it should be highlighted that even if you threw the rule book and the whippy sticks and stuff in the trash, like you just like Kobe right in the garbage, you're still getting a pretty significant discount off of retail, and better than the battalion boxes that we're going to see coming at us.
Yeah, I mean, this is the launch, right? They want everyone to buy into the game. So giving us a bargain is very sensible. Would it be good starting army with? And then should we get 2 boxes? Should we get 2 boxes? I don't think that we need to get a second one of these ever.
No, because I can't imagine a world in which you really genuinely need 72 men-at-arms.
Well, slow your roll. That could be a venture all of its own.
Like, I mean, if you really love them, sure. But yeah, the things, that you'll be adding to Bretonnia after this are, well, basically Pegasus, maybe another one of the Royal Pegasus characters, either the BSB or just another Duke. The places you go from here, you're going to start getting the, individual boxes from here. This is good enough for one.
Absolutely. Then let's give it a rating out of 5. To me, this is a kind of like, I'm going to say a 4. Maybe like this is my 4. But again, the book to me is a problem. This is all stuff I don't necessarily want. It's cheap online. There's a bunch of other stuff, but models wise, I think the peasants hold up really, really well. I think the knights hold up really, really well. I think the pegs and the peg lord are great. So they're just a step above what I got from the Tomb King models. So this gets a 4 out of 5 from me.
I'm still tempted to go 5 out of 5 fish. I think it's an outstanding starter. I guess I could see some argument for 4 out of 5 fish, but I don't know. I think it's outstanding. I think it's excellent value. It's a one click and off you go. You're on the way to a pretty significant army. It is, I think, from like a playability perspective, like as in like what do you have to add from here? Yeah, you probably do need to make some additional purchases if you want to make a more so-called competitive army, if you will. So maybe getting more to the 4 out of 5 fish, but still a stonking good deal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. Okay, so 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5. We agree on one. Nice. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Next up, we are doing Orcs and Goblins, the Battalion box for Orcs and Goblins. Flavorful, powerful. No rule book, so it's going to score highly from me, surely. Inside this box, you get 2 Orc boar chariots, 31 Orc boys, 40 goblins, 1 Orc transfer sheet, and 1 Goblin transfer sheet. So, what do you think of the models inside this box? Cool or not cool?
So, some of these models are some of my favorite old-timey models. The common Goblin kit is actually I really loved it. I bought it when like decades ago at this point when I was playing 40K, and I just used them for anytime I needed a goblin, I could just sort of glue one together and have one hanging off a tank or something. They're like really cool. Brian Nelson sculpts. These are some of my favorite sculpts.
Met him.
Going way back. He's the person who sort of changed the way Orcs and Goblins work for Games Workshop. And this sort of era of sculpting is when I think they really look the coolest. They're just like mutated and cartoonishly proportioned. They're all hunched backs and in deep squats. So they're some of my most favorite versions of orcs, period. And then the orc kit itself, the orc boys, you got the option. I think there's certainly options for hand weapon shield, double hand weapon, and error boys. I'm pretty sure. Error. So some missile troops. So there's a lot of like tremendous amount of variety. Same thing goes for the goblins. You can have them as spear and shield or errors. What do they call them? Shoot us. So and then the chariots, which are pulled by literal little pigs. Like it's supposed to be a war ball, but they are tiny little pigs.
Whenever I see one of those chariots on the table, it cracks me up. I'm like, what's that going to do? They're like, actually, Rob, it's a heavy chariot. I'm like, stop it. Okay, absolutely.
Little guy.
Stop it. I am glad that this is a nostalgia release for you. That's fun. I would not be picking up any of these models for an Orc and Goblin army, because ultimately an Orc and Goblin army is super cool, really thematic, and I think these models themselves have had their day for me on that front. Every element of them. So yeah, I don't think there's any particular win here for me from like a models perspective. I do kind of like the Orc boys. I think the Orc boys still hold up quite nicely. They're quite fun. But obviously Age Sigmar has produced a lot of very cool Orc and Goblin kits over the past little bit. So I like them a lot.
I don't think they've ever done like an Orc boy though.
No, they've done Ard Boys, which I think Ard Boys are quite fun, and you would definitely use Ard Boys as like Black Orcs.
Black Orcs, yes.
For sure. Although, I mean, painting up a bunch of Ard Boys, Orc Boys and Ard Boys, same base. Black Orcs, same base, different bases.
Yeah, no, they're like base, like bottom, like their base size.
Yeah, base size.
Yeah. Base size is 30 millimeter. They're the same. Yes.
In which case, I'd be far more tempted to pick up some Ard Boys, paint them up, and then use them as either orcs or Black Orcs. That way, I've got kind of like a dual kit.
Are we? So we're talking about usability here.
I think I think generally this is just an aesthetic convo. Cool or not cool? You're like, yeah, man. These are my vibe. This is my energy, and I'm sure lots of people are going to be on the other side of this. And I do feel like I'm going to be a black cloud on some of these conversations each box release because I'm just looking
ahead of all the models coming at us. I'm going to say just about all of them might be a bit of a black cloud. That's okay. That's why
I think this is the most egregious. The Bretonnian one I thought was rad.
This is the most egregious. You think these are the worst models available to buy right now?
In the Battalion Boxes.
On the Battalion Boxes? No. Maybe. Oh, I can't say that.
Well, okay.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Well, say what you will about their aesthetics, Rob, but 2 years ago, it was impossible to find the Common Goblin kit. And now here we're getting 40 of them? So, yeah. How about them apples? Literally, you couldn't find Common Goblins because no one bought them ever before.
It's because to me there is no Common Goblin. All goblins are unique and special. Okay, so
the Snowflake Goblin.
Yeah, exactly. The cost analysis for these guys. Where are we at? Do they verge on the cheaper side? I really hope.
Well, I mean, the battalion kits are all priced almost virtually identically. So these guys are going to come in at about $185 US for the box itself. So that's not too bad. And then the individual kits are all about $85 US. So it's $85 for the Common Goblins, $85 for the orcs.
So $255.
About the same, about $255 altogether. And therefore, there's about 25% savings or so. So not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap. Like, that's good. I don't think it's cheap enough for me. Like, I'd want these to be... I'd maybe pick these up off you if they were $40 is what I would take them off your hands for. Painted.
Painted, yeah. It would have to be painted. And it would probably have to be free.
Yeah, I'll rebase them is what I'll do if they're free. That's where I'll go. Okay. Points-wise, though, in this box, unfortunately, it's also our worst points box. Running at... We've got 530 points worth of stuff in here. So not even anywhere, barely the core allowance we would need in 2,000 points.
Yeah, and I don't even know if you can really get that number up.
No, very few upgrades on the orc kit, right? Make a big uns?
Yeah, I guess you could make a okay. The orc kit, maybe you could juice up a little bit. Biggins. Yeah, there's probably some other stuff, but you're gonna struggle to get these things up in points value.
Yeah, not great on the point, and in fact, the worst of all the start collecting boxes.
Yes.
So this is also a tragedy, which is also a kind of an interesting conversation that does happen for everyone collecting most of Games Workshop's products. Elite stuff, you normally get the same amount of models, but elite stuff is just more points dense, whereas hoardy type stuff is not in any way, it's not got like a good points to pound ratio or points to dollar ratio.
Yeah, so, points per model. Dollars per model. One thing though, in general with Old World is that you do get a ton of figures. So like you do get usually you get enough in a regiment box to actually build probably more based on the way things are going with infantry and stuff. You probably have more than what you need. But yeah, points wise, Orc boys are probably in a tough spot just in the way that the game is. So yeah, you could probably get your core covered by this, but that's about it.
Yeah, not the best. Would it be good to start an army with? Is the next question. You're an Orc and Goblin fan, but not a single one of those goblins have got a hood. So is this a good army? Is this a good box to start an Orc and Goblin army with either?
Almost absolutely not.
Almost
oddly,
the opposite.
Oddly, the one thing that this might be good for, very tentative might be, would be the core of a troll horde. Because it does give you a lot of, I don't think you can use the chariots at all, though. Never mind. Because it's the only place I could see where you would use common goblin errors, shoota boys instead of night goblins.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the only time you would buy this as your first kit is if you really just love common goblins and orc boys. But if in most cases, those are not the units that you'll be building your army around. So it's just not a great starter box.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all of those things. Yes, bad. It's bad. There's no
ironic
Wyvern.
for orcs and goblins that the orc and goblin starter set is a real womp womp. But yeah, this is probably I think this is categorically the worst.
Categorically the worst. Yeah, no Doom Divers, no Fanatics, no Wizards,
Night goblins.
No
Black
Lord,
Orcs.
no, yeah, it's all the stuff that's good, and not even that's good. That is also maybe like a little bit more dynamic in many ways. So a little bit of a shame. So then,
common goblins are a tough sell, and if you want orc boys, there's nothing wrong with you. If you like just having some orcs going around beating face, you probably want orc boys and night goblins, and you could just buy those in a regiment box and get a butt ton of them. So yeah.
Follow up. Should we get 2 of these?
I mean, for free, sure.
You should get 1 is the simple answer.
No. Yes, do not get 1.
Which brings us to our rating out of 5 and final thoughts. I'm going to let you go first.
So from a model, like the models in the box perspective, like the total volume you get, the quantity, the savings aren't particularly, they're no different than the other battalion boxes. Obviously, it's not a great core start. This is a 0 out of 5 fish for me.
Yeah.
This is a do not buy.
This is actually, I would take up another hobby other than fishing. I would go and do another, I would start something else. I'm not sure what, but yes, 0 out of 5. This is absolutely, I mean, I haven't really fully coalesced what I think about every other box, but this is categorically the worst.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to say, and especially in a range of models that literally, if you threw darts at the Orc and Goblin army list for like an afternoon, and you only had 3 darts, coming up with this particular combination of units would probably take you all day. Like every other throw of 3 darts would net you 3 way more interesting, fun units, and probably look a little cooler too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let us know in the comments below what you think. Are we being unfair? Next up, we are going to do the very popular Dwarven Mountain Hold. Super popular. Popular even before this box came out, because everyone was 3D printing them Highland mini dwarfs.
That's right. Yeah.
Very popular, which is maybe the only time we should maybe have that conversation, because they are crazy popular. Inside the box, 2 gyrocopters, which can also be built as gyrobombers, 32 dwarf warriors. Oh my God. 32 dwarf thunderers. Oh my God. 64 dwarfs. And a dwarf mountain hold transfer sheet. So I'm going to just jump in with the aesthetics here, if you don't mind. Sure. Absolutely banger. These are older sculpts. Banger.
All right.
Banger. Like, Warhammer itself has gone through several aesthetic iterations. There's sometimes they've been like Tolkien-esque, sometimes they've been like Pratchett-esque. There's and sometimes it's just the faction also has a kind of like dynamic style that changes over time. Depends. Demons have gone through several iterations as an example. Okay. To me, these are like iconic, but like World of Warcraft, you're like, that looks a bit old and derpy. And you're like, that's fine. because that's its aesthetic. I think
old and derpy is actually like is a compliment, I think, amongst dwarves.
Yeah,
You're looking rather old and derpy today. What, are you doing something different? I hope not.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. I haven't had a fresh thought in 30 years. So yeah, I think this is banger. Like, I find the gyrocopters to be incredibly cute. Even though easily one of the worst builds ever is building the little roto top part, if you've ever built one.
Oh yes, yeah. There's all the little supporting things on the wing, on the propellers. Yes,
absolutely true nightmare. But yeah, banger for me. I think aesthetic, like cool, functional. Like they look very fun. They look great on like those slightly bigger bases. So yeah, for me, big win. What do you think about them?
So dwarves in general, for me. One thing I like them as individuals. Like when I look at a dwarf mom, I'm like, oh, that guy's cool. As an army arrayed on the table, personally, I find them very one note, literally, because they're all the same height.
Yeah.
And they're all very, very small, and they're all infantry, aside from the gyros and war machines. So just aesthetically, that's one of the reasons why they don't like call my name very strongly. But as far as models are concerned, it's hard to be mean to these ones. I think they're really well, they're really well put together kits, and provide you with a lot of different options and arms and ways to make them look. And then the gyrocopters are some of my favorite units, like in look. I guess also just in sort of vibe. I love sort of Flintstone style technology. You know what I mean? Like technology that is more advanced than the thing that it's in. So in the setting, a flying machine that drops bombs and stuff, I think it's super cool. I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. So I don't know, it's sort of a mixed bag for me, just because I'm not a big dwarf guy. That's where I'm coming from there. But yeah, perfectly nice kit. This is again one of those plastic kits that was updated, I think, sort of like in your. This is not the 6th edition kit. This is the 7th edition dwarf kit.
Yeah, it's not the 8th. So it's not any of the 8th edition kits.
I don't know when the gyros got.
Gyrocopters were 8th edition. Sorry, gyrocopters were 8th edition. Yes, none of the infantry is 8th edition.
So yeah, maybe they got an update in 8th. Regardless, they're probably CAD designed. They're not hand sculpted. So there's a little bit more complexity and cool things going on. So from a pricing perspective, you've got 2 regiment boxes included in here with the Thunderers / Quarrelers, as well as the Warriors, and then the 2 gyros. All of them are $85 each. So that's $255, $255 USD.
$255, yeah.
So and then this sells itself for, I believe they all go for $180. So pretty good saving, again, about that 25%, 185, sorry, that 25% savings. So again, the question is are these things that we use?
Yeah, for sure. Well, like from a cost analysis, I feel like you get a lot of dudes, which is true for many of these. Yes. I don't think it's the clangor that we saw with Orcs and Goblins. This is, though, on the lower points end of the conversation. It's 800 points we got for dwarfs here. Okay. Again, not much opportunity to upgrade a lot of stuff. There's obviously banners and things that you can upgrade, but again, unlike those 2 initial boxes, no characters. Just a cheeky rune lord in here would have been. This is an interesting kind of point. Without a character, they become boxes that you could repeat buy. However, and also it's weird to sell an army without a leader. I think is a kind of a weird thing to say. Like, it's weird to not just say his leader, but I guess maybe they don't want to like lock you in to a certain leader. Do I want a dwarf lord and shield bearers? Do I want a rune lord? What do I want to try pick myself up? In the other boxes, it feels weird not to have like a wizard or something. But 800 points for this at the moment. I mean, you can change stuff up. Gyrocopters can become gyro bombers and things, but on the cheaper end. But after this, you're only really adding war machines and stuff, right? And characters.
War machines, characters, other types of dwarf infantry. That's actually the one thing that I do like about this is that you have the opportunity to not run them exactly as they are modeled, because you probably won't want to use missile infantry. You probably won't want to necessarily just use dwarf warriors. So, finding ways to re-kit bash these into things like dwarf rangers or longbeards or other versions of dwarf infantry, because they are so modular, I think that opportunity is there. But I do wonder if you really want this many of these particular kits.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, is this a good start to an army? I guess is the real question. Not to be dwarfist, but when a dwarf player says, "This is my unit of X," I'm like, that's fine. I do not question. I'm just like, that's okay. If they are using, even if they're using the handgunners as longbeards, I'm like, bro, that's fine. They're longbeards. That's a unit of longbeards with a really fun heavy weapon that they're using. They run out of bullets and they're using their gun as a heavy weapon, whatever you want it to be, or a great weapon. So yeah, like for me, for starting an army, not bad. You do need a lot of infantry because, as Val said, you don't have a lot of other tools. But characters are a big element of the Dwarven rosters and collecting a Dwarven army. Obviously, war machines make your army far more fun. So you definitely want to take get and collect a bunch of war machines. They're super fun. Getting yourself an Anvil of Doom is also a really fun add-on. But you do just need a lot of dwarfs, whatever they might be. Like the guys with handguns could be quarrelers. The not quarrelers, could be rangers if you wanted to. Like give them a cute little cloak or whatever you want to say about them. It's fine with me. So I think it's a good box for starting an army.
I think mashing up probably the best bet here is to mash up the warriors and the the quarrelers and make yourself some rangers. That would probably be what I'd be doing for the most part, and then maybe a smaller unit of missile infantry, a smaller unit of great weapon dwarf warriors as it is. But the other two kits, like the other two regiment boxes that you can buy, I believe it's hammers and longbeards, and then it's Ironbreakers / what are the Iron Drakes? So they're the shooty guys.
Yeah.
Both of those kits, if you just want those, if you want like your unit to be the model that it's for, both those kits are probably way more worth it to you. There are a lot less of them though. So maybe you're right. Maybe what you do is you buy this and you get a whole lot of stubby dwarf bodies. And then you buy those other regiment kits for the parts, and that allows you to sort of kit bash and get your dollar to go farther if that's something that you're concerned about and want to do. But yeah, I think the other plastic regiment kits are probably generally better. But what we see with all of the battalion boxes is that they're 4 core selections for the most part, which kind of makes the I think the gyro. I'm not sure if the gyro can be core in some armies, but. Yeah, I think it's an okay start, but usually I would say it's okay because only if you're intending to sort of kit bash things into other elements.
Should we get 2 of the box? It's a lot of dwarfs. That's over 140 dwarfs at that point.
It's too many dwarfs. That's gonna be such a buzzkill. It's gonna bring your vibe way down. A lot of grumbling.
They're going to get
a lot of energy.
Yeah.
A lot of negative energy.
There's some vibe vampires. Yeah, I don't think you need this. You need other kits, definitely. And also you want other kits. Some of those other kits are really cool. The design and aesthetic is excellent as well. So I think that's really fun. Like Val said, you can just put a unit of dwarf anything down. There's also we should also mention, I think at this point, I did say I was going to mention it. So popular, the Highland miniature 3D prints also kind of scuppered this box a little bit at launch. A bunch of new and updated sculpts, very popular, printed all around the world. I know I haven't brought that conversation into any of the others, so maybe it's a little bit unfair, but that was just something that everyone has got a friend who has them or has printed them, I think, and they are just very great sculpts and very cheap.
I think they compete with these. However, I think these GW sculpts, even though they are old, hold their own against the Highland miniature dwarfs. Because ultimately, a dwarf's a dwarf. You know.
Not sure what you're trying to say there. Actually,
it's usually a short guy with a beard. So
it's actually tall in their culture.
I think it was probably fair point. It's sizist. Yeah, so I don't know. I think as far as like they were very popular. I think that it had a lot to do with just the availability, right? Like people wanted to play dwarves so bad right out of the gates for Old World. I was shocked at how popular dwarves are, especially in our survey and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the dwarves are a great range, and this is an okay box.
Okay. So bringing us to our rating out of 5, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. This is my 4 out of 5 box. I think this is good. It's pretty cheap. You get a lot of dudes, which is fun. They're aesthetically definitely part of the range. There is loads of other stuff that you need, but you do need a lot of dwarfs, and you just get a lot of dwarfs, and that's good.
I don't know. We gave 4 fish to the Bretonnians. This is. I'm not going to fail this one. I'm going to give this. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 fish. It's solidly cromulent.
Okay, all right. Let us know in the comments below what you think. We've disagreed there. Let me know what you think. Next up, we've got Warriors of Chaos Battalion Box. Oh, you get a lot of dudes in here as well, which is fun to see. So you do get 2 Chaos Chariots with horses, but you can build them as Gore Beast Chariots. 10 Chaos Knights, 32 Chaos Warriors, which is 32 more probably than you want. And then a new Warrior of Chaos transfer sheet. Now
we haven't been talking about the transfer sheets. Damn it, we got to re-record everything.
They add some value, right?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I like to imagine myself using a transfer sheet.
A transfer sheet is the true pile of shame that we all have.
That's right. And especially now that I have the Goblin Miniature Stamping Kit.
Hey, available directly from Goblin Gaming.
Goblin Gaming. Good guy, Brent.
Yeah, good guy, Brent. So what do you think aesthetically of this box?
Aesthetically?
Yeah, well, you know, like, what do you think of the models in the box? That's where we're at to start with.
I love them. I love these guys. Yeah. I do. I really do. Really? Are
you okay?
I feel like I was a little bit harsh in the way I mimicked the way you said really, and I apologize.
That's okay.
So the Warriors of Chaos range, these guys, I understand your approach, but for me, I kind of like the soulless warrior approach, like the decidedly undynamic shoulder to shoulder, the like implacable advance of chaos vibe that especially the Warriors of Chaos had, like the actual Chaos Warriors have.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the chariot is dynamic. The horses are appropriately sized. And then you can also be the Gore Beast. And then the Knights kit actually can rank up now that it's on a 30 millimeter base.
That's true. Finally.
Once upon these mothersuckers couldn't actually fit together. Well, they could, but it was very, very, very difficult. So I don't know. I love them. I think they're quite chaotic and still hold up to me.
Yeah, I think it's. I agree with you. I think even though the Age of Sigmar new dynamic sculpts are, I think in many ways so much better. The Knights especially, I think, are astounding. The new Knight kits. I think these hold up really, really well. And you know, there's a lot you can do with them. The shields front and center does make you feel like it's a shield wall. It does feel very effective. You got a couple of build options as well with how you do build them, like double hand weapons, shield and hand weapon. That's a fun kind of like build option as well. The cloaks are really fun for doing, you know, like these are dedicated to Nurgle. They are green. Khorne, they are red. So you've got a real nice opportunity to like, you know, really put your mark on them as well. Thank you. So yeah, good. And the chariots are fine. I think, good, strong, classic. There are better sculpts out there, immediately available in GW, but they are much more expensive.
Way more expensive. Stay tuned for a video on all of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So like these are good. These are, to me, just like I would say even beyond good enough. They're great models. This might be the cheapest way to start a Slaves to Darkness army.
I'll go the other way. I'll go the other way.
As well as AOS, right? As well as Old World. And like even the chariot. Oh man, I really like the chariot. It's got a lot of good motion into it. The Warriors are quite repetitive, but this starter set is kind of the Space Marines of Old World. Always has been. So it's something that, you know, if you're Learning to paint, for example. There's a lot of like really basic, quick techniques that you can learn to like get these guys competently painted and on the table. The color palette is limited, so there's lots of good reasons to say that these are these are a good sort of first hobbyist army, and also I think aesthetically I like them.
Perfect. Okay, cost is going to be our next point. It costs the same as all the other battalion boxes, pretty much, 185 USD. Right. Do we get much of a saving? Similar sort of saving here?
Yeah, it's identical, around 25%, and then from the probably the cost per model a little lower than some of the other ones, just because. It's 32 warriors and 10 chaos knights and 2 chariots. Like we've seen way higher model counts. Like if that's something that matters to you, in the other ones. So there's that.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a good collection of stuff, definitely for the price. But it's very heavy on the warriors. For sure. But as a box, it comes in, it's one of our like higher end points dense boxes in 940 points. But that really is because of those 32 warriors. They're expensive per points each. You can give them marks and upgrade them and do a ton of stuff. So you could easily, same with the knights, and warriors can just be chosen also. So they can move out of your core selection. They can immediately become one of your special choices. So you can get those knights up to being like 50 points each. So that knight unit alone could be like 500 points if you wanted it to be.
Yes.
So like 940 unupgraded, but easily very, very expensive if you want it to be points wise. So you can get very points dense. And I think there's a kind of like an humming and hawing about also there's sorry, I was just going to say that also, you could use the warriors as some of the other units maybe like that you can see out that core selection if you wanted to, maybe make them a bit gribbly if you wanted.
Yeah, maybe give them some tentacles.
Yeah, give them some tentacles, make them
some mutations.
You got some kit bashing available there.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, Forsaken, probably the best pound for point, pound for pound core infantry option that Chaos have, and have a plastic kit, have not been re-released.
Yeah, weird.
So we don't know why that is, but
so actually maybe a little bit more value in those warriors, being able to just like convert them a little bit and make yourself some Forsaken.
Yep, I think that might be one angle you go. There's also the Chaos Marauders that you can use as a basis for Forsaken too, but yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think about starting an army with this box for Warriors of Chaos? Do you think good, bad?
I would say you want to be able to start a Warriors of Chaos army with the Warriors of Chaos.
Slap just what the picture of me, like Michael Jordan, just dunking a dragon right on top of the box and being like, it could be this instead.
Ironically, another thing you can't buy. Right. The Warriors of Chaos are actually in a tough spot from the actual things available for you to buy from the Old World range.
Correct.
Because a lot of the things you want actually aren't available. Going to push you to third party or maybe the AOS range to go cherry pick some things. Lots of nice dragons available over there. So it's this is a toughie for me because again, mostly because these aren't necessarily models. If we're talking about points and the value you get for those points, I don't think these are models for the most part we're going to be reaching for. And the knights themselves, I guess you could paint them differently to make them chosen. I don't think there is a specific chosen knights model. There's chosen on foot. So there's that. I guess you could you can get some value out of running chosen knights. I know those still get run, but the heavy emphasis on infantry, the chariots you do use, the chariots you are totally usable, totally worthwhile. But those Warriors of Chaos, you probably do want to kit bash them into something else.
Yeah, into something else that's not currently available. But there are there is warrior block lists that you can do some stuff with. I myself have played with quite a few warriors, but they have just been Tzeentch bunkers. They've not been to do anything useful.
And how did that make you feel inside, Rob?
I felt like the Warriors of Chaos weren't just literally just tokens to make my wizards better, which is weird. But that's what a Chaos Sorcerer Lord would feel about some Chaos Warriors. So conflicted.
Actually, Yeah, a bunker for your caster, like a Zinch bunker for your caster. I'm sorry, that's actually true. That is a very valid use for Warriors of Chaos, or even probably not, or even Chosen if you want to fly them around on foot. Like there's lots of fun stuff you can do there. That is very true. It's just that the way that armies tend to be built with Warriors of Chaos tend to use a lot of like sort of more points dense options from all over the range, and specifically not really the old world range. So this is a tough one for me. I have to say.
I would say that would I get this to start an army? Yes, I would. I would. I bought the AOS stuff instead. There was like a Christmas battalion box, which was discounted. So you got like knights, you got the warriors, you got also Eternus, who makes a really awesome like Lord on Demonic Mount, which had him like kit bashed up. So he's super cool. So that was a really good box. Obviously, that was a one-time purchase and not available. So is this, but this is also cheap as well. Like realistically, for the sheer volume of stuff you get, like you could need a lot of dudes. For starting an army for Old World, it's much easier to get a wizard, a dragon, and then some stuff. So yeah, like this isn't perfect, but I'm hoping when infantry becomes a little bit better, maybe if they look at cavalry, this is probably going to go up in my estimation. Should we get 2 of these boxes? I think absolutely not. That's too many.
Yeah, probably two is way too many. And the interesting thing is because of like how borderline usable some of this stuff is, like 10 knights. It's a lot of knights actually because they're so points dense. So it's worth looking maybe at the Slaves to Darkness Spearhead because but if you double that, it's significantly more expensive. But it is worth looking at because although these models are cheaper. You may just not need that many of them, and it is kind of funny to me that it's the exact same chariot in the Slaves to Darkness Spearhead.
Yeah.
So it may be worth maybe that's a whole other show is looking at alternatives to this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
let us know in the comments if you would like us to do a different show where we look at alternatives to.
Would you like us to be a different show? Are you wanting to click off?
Rating out of 5 fish. 5 fish. 5 pound fish. What are you thinking?
Putting this at the 3 again. It's very, very on the board. I think it's too harsh to say 2. I don't think it's a failure. I like the models, but there are alternatives. It feels like you're getting value. You're getting 25% more out of it, but are you going to use them? So like to me, it's a 3 out of 5 fish for the Bat Box of Warriors of Chaos.
Super fair. I think I'm also going to go for the 3. I think it's solid. It's a good box. I really do think it's a good box. I think it's good. I don't think you're going to regret because you're going to say to yourself, I might do 10 nights today. I might do 10 chosen nights today. The fact that the warriors are warriors, warriors, chosen, and they're also, forsaken, all at the same time, really, if you want them to be. That's a nice, like, multi thing. So, yeah, super excellent. 3 out of 5. Let us know what you think in the comments. Next up, we are doing, I know one of your favorites, one of my favorites too, Empire. The Empire Battalion Box. The Empire Battalion Box. So what's inside it? Well, you get a steam tank. All right, I would say this is one of the biggest ticket items that we've had in these boxes, apart from the Bone Dragon. It's cool. Steam tank, 30 state troops. 30 state missile troops. So, from an aesthetic point of view, how do you think these hold up? What are you thinking?
So I'm a halberd guy. I love my halberdiers, and I hate these guys because for whatever reason they all point their halberds. So there's no one in like a marching order or even like a rear rank order. So like you get this they're really, really annoying. So all of my halberds have the halberd's been snapped off, and I got to glue things back on all the time. It's one of my least favorite kits. I think it looks cool, but as halberdiers, really annoying to rank up and to make look cool on their. I've always wanted to go look for see if there's someone who's made a 3D print accessory for this kit, so that I can have a guy in the back whose halberd is held up or on an angle, so you can get that sort of hedgehog look.
Yeah.
This is where I like to fantasize about hobby projects. So that's a very key part of my hobby.
Imagine how many transfers you can pull on that guy too.
Oh my, just basically like 50% transfers. So yeah, so the state troops I don't like so much. The state missile troops, though,
Hello.
they got a monkey. There's a monkey in there. There's a powder monkey.
Yep.
The both the crossbows and the handgunners, like their actual handguns, are so dope. They're all different. Like each one is kind of like this bespoke musket blunderbuss thing. They're all ludicrously large. Just it's comical to see this like malnourished Empire State dude holding what is clearly 100 pounds of like oak and steel. They're absurd and so Warhammer to me. I think there's a Hochland long rifle.
Yes.
In that kit, like the sprue is amazing. So yeah, the Empire State missile troops, big win. Empire State militia, or not militia, just the Empire State troops themselves. Yeah, take or leave that kit for sure.
Well, the tank's iconic. The steam tank is iconic as hell.
I didn't even talk about it. Goes without saying, Rob.
Looks fantastic.
It's a tank.
Yeah, it's a tank. And I think immediately that will draw the eye to people to this battalion box. The steam tank looks great. I would say the missile troops also, they are really a blank canvas for the level of artist you are. Listen, are you an army painter and want to get an army done? They're not a bad kit. Do you really want to go to town, do a bunch of heraldry, and have a really good fun time and put some transfers on? Then I think, yeah, they hold up for that as well. Yeah, the faces are not 11 out of 10, but they are also much more of a, compared to the Age of Sigmar side of it, where the humans have taken a very drastically different route, like aesthetically.
Yeah,
these are very much more Warhammer Fantasy, and they give you that kind of good concept. And yeah, there's a lot of whimsy. We talked about this earlier. They've got like a lot of like Pratchett-esque kind of like whimsy around and near them, which I think is excellent. So yeah, I think aesthetically these are super strong, and I really like these. And I assume price-wise and kind of discount-wise, similar sort of like good discount for these.
Virtually identical, if maybe just ever so minutely smaller, because oddly the steam tank is 80 USD, and most of those things like sort of that's kind of like your plastic monster price point is $80 US. So the state troops and state missiles are both $85 regiment boxes that you get a bucket of them in. So yeah, you're looking at your 25% savings at $185 US dollars.
Yeah. All right, that's good. Well, it is on the cheaper end when it comes to points per pound, though. 730 points, which 200 and something of those points is just the steam tank itself.
That's right. And this is one of the few battalion boxes where there's just no way to get that. Like, there's nothing, unfortunately, that allows you to take a steam tank and core. So really, are you filling out? Yeah, you're just barely filling out your core points probably once you add command and stuff with this. So yeah.
Yeah, and arguably, again, I guess it's kind of a dwarf situation. I've got a block of infantry. Like, yeah, if I do the front guys with spears, the back guys with like hand weapons and shields, or maybe if I even mix them up as well, do maybe a unit filler, I could really make these blocks expand out a little bit. Make them a little bit more dynamic. So I don't have to be like, I'm going to paint 40 spearmen. Okay, now I'm going to paint 40 sword and board guys. You can have you're like, these are my guys, and today they've got spears. You're like, great, that looks fun. You could really have fun with this as a kind of block of infantry, which I think is good. And again, similar to the missile troops, you could have a real fun time with this is a block of missile troops. So I think that's good. And I think that then them not being points dense is fine, because you can be really clever with, how you build them. And also the person you're playing, as long as they're a chill human being, that's also, you've got a lot of options. But it's just a lot of dudes that are rubbish.
Yes, absolutely. And like, not even like rubbish in a good way. Like they're just bad. And that's just where we are right now with the game. They suffer doubly from being infantry, and then also just probably the poorest pointed core infantry and equipped with rules core infantry in the game. They're literally just guys. Like, they don't have any extra rules aside from detachments. They're just some dudes. They're toughness 3, and there's like 6 to 7 points each. So yeah, the state troops are one of the things that could use some help the most. Steam Tank is a perfectly good unit, though, and probably something you'd want in an army a lot of the time, and it looks cool as hell.
100%. Okay, so so for starting an army, just like you said, you think good?
No, I would put this at the 1 or 2 out of 5 fish. I think
for starting an army.
For starting an army, if this had maybe if like you replace like if it had the Empire Knights kit in here instead, like swap out. They're probably not going to swap out the state troops. Maybe swap this, anything in here for the Empire Knights. I think maybe that makes it a little bit more of a core starter army, but this is just probably more like if you want an army that looks like Empire, fantastic. If you want an Empire army that's not going to make you feel good after you put it on the table for the first time after painting it for 3 or 4 months, not so fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As of publishing this right now.
As of publishing, yeah. At time of release, should we get 2 of the boxes though? Also no, is the simple answer. Yeah, also no. And then finally, rating it out of 5 are our thoughts. I'd say it's a 2, but my hot take here is that it's a great start to what an Empire army could be. We get some cool rules changes to the game.
By the time you have it painted, who knows?
Yeah, that's a lot of dudes to paint. Get them on the table. There's some really fun, different aesthetic other kits that you can build and paint to make an Empire army versus these. But like, I don't think it's terrible. Steam Tank obviously is a big win. Still aesthetically, it really holds up. It's good in game. So yeah, I don't think it's bad, but I think I'll give it a 2 out of 5. I think it's okay.
I think that's bang on. I think it's held back by the fact that kind of like, I don't know, I would put Orc Boys ahead of these guys. But there's the common goblins in the Orc kit. Like as far as like usable stuff is concerned, probably hurts, but it is what you want your Empire army to look like. So it makes my heart sick. So I would say, 2 out of 5 fish. I think it's very reasonable rating for this. And maybe one day Empire State Troops will have their day in the sun. Like, and there's all kinds of other things that could get better to bring them up. Like you could see the warrior priests and the wolf priests of Ulrich get some better rules. So you could see the units around the characters and things like that get better, and suddenly state troops do what they used to do, which is be regular dudes with like magical friends or like the spirit of Sigmar urging them on. So we'll see. Maybe things get better.
Let's hope. Let us know in the comments below what rating you would give them. Next up, High Elf Realms. This is the most recently released one at time of recording. So you get 2 Tyrannok chariots, which can alternatively be built as lion chariots of Thrace, which is kind of a little bit of a bargain there. Because if you don't build them, you get the lions, and you can use the lions.
You get cool lions. Yeah, that's true.
Then you get 32 Elven Spearmen, and then 32 Elven Archers. And it doesn't list it on the website, but you will see a transfer sheet. Don't worry. I'm never going to miss out saying that. Okay. Be careful. Okay, so aesthetically, I think these sing to me. This looks, I would say the archers, not perfect, but the spearmen feel like elves. They also feel like kind of comic book elves. They're in that early transition between like, photorealistic, more kind of like more well-sculpted elves. They've sat in that kind of 80s, sandals and sorcery kind of elf for me, and I don't mind that aesthetic. That's an aesthetic that I think that they could have maintained a little bit. They could have stayed a little like with the dwarves. They could have maintained and stayed like that, and I'd have been okay with it. I'd have been like, that's okay. Like the modern hyper realistic elves that we see coming out of Age of Sigmar, that we see in 40k, you're like, yeah, that's cool. Like, wow, you could really do some stuff with the technology, but I don't mind this aesthetic, and I don't mind the models because of the aesthetic.
Well, I for one am shocked.
Oh, really?
That you are coming out standing for these models, because these are pre-CAD designed OG plastic regiment kits. One of the High Elf Spearmen and archers. I don't know if the archers actually may have been refreshed at some point. The spearmen never have. They got sort of semi-refreshed by when in the Island of Blood kit, but they were Seaguard instead. So with these guys, you have like the big, thick, fat hands. You got the big hands and really, really big, thick spears that kind of look aesthetically bad, just like those Tomb King skeletons.
Don't break, though.
They don't break. All right. Wow. Look at you going to bat.
They don't break.
Look at you going to bat for the old models.
Yeah.
But I would say like these guys to me are nicer, but still in the same. They're in the same world as the Tomb King skeletons as far as like their age and their generation and style.
Yeah.
So like for me, if I really wanted a big brick of spearmen, I'd be using Seaguard, whether or not I actually run them as Seaguard.
I mean, Seaguard's an incredible sculpt.
It's beautiful. And it's been a little bit tweaked for the re-release. So for me, a bit of a miss. I really don't mind the archers. I think they're cool. With their battle dresses and the chariots again, newer. Definitely like sort of a seventh era refresh for those guys. The spearmen are just one of those historical head scratchers as to why they never got around to giving them an update. Yeah.
Also, something we should have mentioned through the whole video, but ease of hobby. They're not too bad. This is a release to hobby up for sure. I don't mind them. I guess we're going to see a similar kind of like savings and discount. These are all pretty much spot on, 25% off for getting this. So I guess straight up we move into how many points that we get for the high elves. And so that would mean it's 858 points for this box of stuff. So it kind of puts us in the mid-range for points denseness with no real opportunity to upgrade here. Like we saw with the warriors, you could take marks and you could do quite a few things with these. These are just what they are, really. Your choices between having a Tyrannoc chariot or a lion chariot when you build them. And I guess it's a real big question, like which way you should build them. I would probably go Tyrannoc is what I'm going to say. Maybe people disagree. Let me know in the comments below. But yeah, no real way to upgrade them, but an okay amount of points. But there is a unit, which Val has already pointed out, Lothern Seaguard, which combines the beauty of a spearman and the power of an archer. And you can buy that, kind of have a dual kit. You can kind of always say these are archers if you wanted them to be. You can use them as spearmen if you want to be. You can use them Lothern Seaguard. It's kind of the perfect kit. And then that becomes, an interesting kind of conversation about, do you even pick this up at all? Do you think this is a good set of minis to start a high elf army?
No.
Would you like to expand on that for the audience?
The reason I would say no is, again, just like the reason no is if you really like spearmen, I think the Lothern Seaguard are nicer. They have their own army of infamy as well if you want to be super themed up about them. And then, you might run some elf archers and some chariots, but the spearmen are just it's never going to be a model I want in my army. So this is a no for me. And then also just from if you're building an army that can stay on the table and be fun and isn't just thematic, then you probably aren't using certainly neither of those two particular infantry kits. You're probably reaching for some other options to fill out your core. So that's why I say a big old no as far as a starter for this. And 0 times 2 as well is a no.
Yeah. This isn't great for starting an army, I would say, for the high elves. Like you want dragons, you want wizards, you want everything but most of the stuff you see here, which is quite disappointing.
It's one of those things, like with just about all of them, because they just give you so much stuff. And it's like, if you're like, I like high elves, and then you look, you're like, holy shit, I get a lot of high elves, and you do. So like for like a very big new beginner, all of these, they thematically, they look right. So like, I think they're going to get a lot of people to go this route with the savings and just the fact that like, wow, I get so many of these guys. However, I think you're better off paying a bit more going a la carte so far in a lot of these cases.
I would agree with that 100%, which means getting 2 of these is also a no. So rating this out of 5, our thoughts about getting this out of 5. Now, aesthetically, like I say, I'm a big stan, but I agree with Val that the Lothar and Seaguard are better in every way. They're not everything that I would like to get out of this, so I can't rate this high. How many stars do you want to give it? And I might follow suit.
I'm going 1 out of 5 fish.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the first to say it, but I'll do it. Mainly because high elf guys will come for me, and I want to. He said it first, okay? Get him first. But yeah, this is a 1 out of 5 fish.
I am surprised that they didn't just put the Seaguard in there, but anyway,
I'm also surprised, especially because also what's really weird, not to go on a tangent, but almost all of the releases have been literally the opposite of the Arcane Journal that they're released with at the same time. It's been a kind of weird like duality. Like, for instance, with Empire came out, we had like 2 army rosters which basically said don't take any wizards, and you're like, amazing, what new minis have you also released? And they're like, you thought about 3 wizards? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, and the Battalion Boxes kind of missed that Arcane Journal step as well, which I think is odd. Okay, but let's know in the comments. All right, next up. So these are the Battalion Boxes that are coming up, which have been showcased on the Warhammer community website. So they're not currently listed. So we've got Beastmen, and then we will, after that, talk about Wood Elves. So Beastmen have got inside their Battalion Box 32 gore, 32 ungore, and then they've got themselves a monster kit, which can either be a Cygor, but most people don't want you to talk about the Cygor because he's not very great, or he can be a Gorgon, which is much better.
Much better.
But you can build both, and a dual kit. We love a dual kit in this family. If not for anything else, then you get a lot of spare bits. You're going to get
lots of stuff.
Yeah, you get that big Cygor rock as an example.
You get a rock.
Yeah, you get a rock, baby. So that's pretty fun. So aesthetically, I'm gonna let me know what you think. I took the high elf one. Aesthetically, what are you thinking? Like, how do you feel about this as a release?
I think this is great. I think these are, again, sort of I don't know the vintage of them, but just looking at them and their proportions and the way they're styled, they feel like sort of like a more of a middle-aged kit rather than an ancient kit. They're very beastmanly. I love the Ungors as just sort of like gross beast people, and there's a good variety of them as well. So yeah, I think overall, aesthetically speaking, like this just feels like a braying herd of goat men.
Yeah, aesthetically, this is one of my favorites. This is very cool. They are derpy, but they're like small and derpy, so you kind of get away with it. They also, when they're ranked up, they have a really fantastic profile. I think the shields, the banners, the bits, the horns does make something that looks very cool. Yeah, I like, sure, you could get a new Ungor sculpt and it will look great, but it's kind of like when they did the Clan Rat upgrade for Age of Sigmar. They went from the old Clan Rats to the new Clan Rats. And I was like, I don't really care. I don't care. That's a much better looking Clan Rat. That's not for me. These will do. I'm going to say, I think these are fine. Maybe everyone's going to come for me now and be like, why can you feel that about the skeletons? I don't know. The skeletons are just too much for me. It was too far. But yeah, these will look really well. Aesthetically great. The Gorgon or the Cygor are great looking big centerpiece models as well, which is very attractive to want to get. And also a goat's a goat. You put a bunch of goats on a base and say it's this unit or that unit, and I'm going to be like, fine. Okay, like I'm not going to argue with you. So you got a lot of skin tones and like shields and colors that you can throw on these things. So I think it's a good. It's also a great hobby project. It's really fun. Do some stuff with bases and stones and stuff. It's great. Okay, same sort. This will be. We don't know the pricing for this yet, but it's been pretty standard, right? It'll be
185, guys.
Yes, 185. It's about 20. It's about 25% saving. Now, where it's unfortunately really going downhill is how many points you're going to get for those pounds. Because if you're building a Gorgon or a Cygor, they're about the same points. But for Beastmen, it's the second lowest, only 45 points above the Orcs and Goblins, in that it's 575 points.
That includes the Gorgon?
I'm pretty certain we did the math on that. So we just did a quick revision there, and we're upgrading it to 630, but it is still very much on the cheapest end, only 100 points more than Orcs and Goblins. But that's if you decide to build the Gorgon, which you should do, over the Cygor. Otherwise, it gets even cheaper. So a pretty cheap points-wise box of Gore and Ungor, and then a big monster. The big monster really saving it. Because, the Ungor and Gore don't even make up your core allowance. That's unupgraded, though. Yes.
Do you have to pay a point to give the Ungor bows?
Short bows are free, but you can have thrusting spears and throwing spears, which is an additional pointer model. If you wanted to go that way, you can also make them ambushers a pointer model. So, if we wanted to, we're getting close. We could take our Ungor herd up to 241 points. We can get a full core out of this if we wanted to. We could take some. We're close. Double ambushers, but it's still, with all of the upgrades, 514 points.
Right. So you're pushing it to get there. But nonetheless, that's interesting. I was expecting more. That is kind of interesting to me that it is so low.
It is low, which means ultimately it's not the best value, right? Like it's you arguably need a lot of goats. Oh, what are you gonna say?
Hear me out. It's also maybe just more efficient because there's also a lot less waste in this box.
I guess so.
Because I think there's a world where you use all of your Gore, all of your Ungor, and your Gorgon. Like for example, like Gore are a mandatory choice. Ungor in Beastmen can be given poison, so you can get your big old poison shooting brick out of your Ungor. There's a chance that you actually use these models, which is not the same thing that we see. And you're definitely, you're not making a mistake bringing your Gorgon to the table. So you have to bring the Gors. You don't necessarily have to bring 32 of them, but you have to bring the Gors, and you could make a useful unit out of Ungor. You know?
Yeah, I agree with you. The efficiency conversation is really solid, but you are still paying a lot of points. Sorry, a lot of pounds, dollars, Canadian dollars, kwacha, whatever you use. You're still paying a lot, and not necessarily. You still got to buy a lot more to throw on top. But sure, a wizard is cheap, right? A chariots that you're going to be purchasing. This is also a really good conversation for getting a second box, maybe. Like the monsters are not too bad, but there's a lot in the Beastmen range, and that's without any of the new stuff that we don't know is even coming. Like we don't know what else is being added to the roster. So there's quite a lot of options. Please do watch our Beastman deep dive that we did. So there's a lot of options to jump around. Do you think this is a good box to start an army? You're thinking yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
this is an excellent basis for an army. I think there's very little waste in this. And then adding to this from here, that you can go in a couple of different directions. But I think this is actually a genuinely good mix of units for Beastmen.
Yeah, I think so too. And maybe there's an argument for 2 boxes. Genuinely, maybe an argument. You get 2 monsters. Then I know you got a lot of Gore, but you might need a lot. Like the best of Gore is like another conversation. Depends if you go monsters, but you get 2 big monster guys, which is not bad.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head that you're probably adding a chariot after this. Like, and if you wanted to go with that big poison brick, then maybe you're looking more like you're looking at maybe adding an Ungor box to this rather than just like everything all over again. But then so if you're adding another box of either Gore or Ungor and another Gorgon, well, you're kind of like getting that third unit almost, like at a pretty significant discount. So it's close. This is close to a double boxer. Close.
Yeah, I think it's close. And it's, So what are you going to rate this out of 5?
This one, solid 4.
I think a 4 as well. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good aesthetics, usable, functional. Like, listen, even if you were to buy a double box and you're like, I don't need quite as many Gore, flog them to your Warrior of Chaos mate so we can use them for some kit bashes.
For some Forsaken.
Yeah, for some Forsaken. Right, you got a good option there. So I think, it's pretty good. And again, like you say, it's cheap and you get a ton of goats which is not bad. So 4 seems very strong. Upcoming box as well, not out yet. So with the Arcane Journal, you might even get more options to run these. We don't exactly know. Like one of them's Minotaur based, so probably not going to be as functional, but maybe the other Army of Renown is going to be like cool. Oh, sorry, Army of Infamy is going to be cool. So yeah, very fun. Lastly, not out yet for a while, but good to get in before anyone else, is the Wood Elf Battalion Box. So this is going to contain 10 cavalry, which is a dual kit because it's an 8th edition kit. So it's either going to be the Wild Riders or it's going to be our Sisters of the Thorn. Then there are 32 Glade Guard, which I think is an older kit still. Then there are 20 infantry, which can either be our Wildwood Rangers or our Eternal Guard. But again, an 8th edition kit, and there's a nice duality there where it's one or the other. And you will end up with a bunch of spares as well, like shield spares and some other stuff, which is really nice. Yeah. Aesthetically, super strong. Yes. Very, very, very strong. Like you getting of the 3 kind of model kits in there, there's 2 dual kits. Both the stags for the Wild Riders and the different infantry in the Wildwood Rangers or the Eternal Guard are amazing. They're pretty modern for Old World standards. I think they look great. They're very, very cool. And then you get a ton of archers, and those archers can be any sort of archers you ever want them to be. So, and you get a lot of them as well. So I gotta say, to me, this is the number 1 box aesthetically.
Aesthetically, I think it's very, very strong leader as far as the way the models look. They're the freshest. Certainly, the oldest kit in here would be the Glade Guard. They're definitely a 7th edition update. The sort of that dual kit, Eternal Guard and Wildwood Rangers kit. Yeah, you're right. Are a little fresher. I think the Wild Riders and the Sisters of Thorn, they existed for like 5 minutes as fantasy models before going to AOS.
They did.
And they have those cool loping caribou mounts or whatever, the stags. So yeah, I mean, this is just lovely kits. And the oldest kit in here, again, is still a sort of a modern designed plastic kit. It's not a hand sculpted kit. At least doesn't have the hallmarks of it. And they hold up super well. I really love them whenever I see them.
They're very, very strong. They're very strong aesthetically. And points-wise, or pounds-wise, we know they're going to be 185, 25% off, which is fine. Points-wise, they're not too bad either. They're 882 points. But obviously, you can mix that around because there's quite a lot of upgrades you can both give to the Glade Guard in what type of like arrows you give them. The difference between Wild Riders and Sisters of Thorn is also, a big one, and also between Eternal Guard and also the Wildwood Rangers. So that can shift around a lot. We could be up to 1,000 points. So yeah, you've got a lot in there, and I would say you also have a lot of options, which I think is also nice as well. With the other kits, you get in a chariot. You're like, okay, cool. I guess a couple of the chariot kits have been dual kits, so they've been okay.
And we actually haven't called out yet that chariots are also useful because they can be character mounts.
Yeah,
so all you got to do is take, either you kit bash up a character out of the plastics that you already got, or you get a character and you plop them on there. So like all of them can be used as character mounts. So they do have extra utility, which we haven't talked about.
That's true. That's super, super true. Yeah, so I would say that this is a great value for points as well, because there's a lot to move around and you could do some good stuff here. Would you agree?
I would 100% agree. And then beyond that, like, your Wildwood Rangers, I don't think they've ever had a real home on the tabletop to date. And even Eternal Guard's probably struggling for a good use on the table right now. However, those kits, especially those the Wildwood guys with their cool sort of cloaks and ninja hats, combined with your Glade Guard, suddenly you got yourself some spicy looking Deepwood Scouts.
Oh yes,
so which are very useful. And like if you really had to assemble a unit of Eternal Guard, is it the worst thing? It's no worse than a unit of spears. But to me, like, this is a great opportunity for kit bashing. Deepwood Scouts. That's literally the kit I would use, or maybe Sisters of Avalorn, because they have the opposite kit as well. What's interesting too on the dual kit in the front, the Wildwood and the Eternal Guard, is that when you compare that to like something like Sisters of Avalorn, which would be virtually the identical sort of kit in the high elf range, just from the fact that it's sort of an elite dual kit. Those are 10 for 85.
Okay,
right. Those are usually like those are not. So those are a bit expensive. And a lot of times you will see the elite unit not getting to 20. So maybe you do get a little extra value from that perspective on these guys.
These also, by the way, I think like these aren't for sale obviously in Age of Sigmar anymore, but this might be the first time we see a price reduction on a kit where they were valued at Games Workshop Age of Sigmar prices at some point. We're going to see them come down for the Old World re-release and repackage, maybe by a bit.
Oh, dude, like the gyrocopters are insane. Like the gyrocopters are a fraction of the cost that they used to be like 6 months ago. When was the last time they were sold in AOS? Not that like just before AOS.
They're still usable now.
But I mean like when they were badged and sold as AOS, and like even like the Slaves to Darkness chariot is the Old World chariot. It's the same kit. It's one of the only ones I know. That's the only one I can think of that's sold in both ranges. Right now, like as the same model, both ranges. I don't know if you can buy it individually anymore in AOS, but like that's like you get 2 in the Old World box, and you get 1 in the Slave to Darkness box. You literally the old models are double as many as the Slaves to Darkness box, which is kind of funny. So yeah.
Okay, so do you think this would be a good army to start with?
Do I think this? Oh, yes. Well, for Wood Elves, absolutely. I think this is one thing about Wood Elves right now is they are on the struggle bus from a competitive perspective. Some people out there, I've seen tier lists would put them as the worst army in the game, especially if you're using the Renegade Legacy pack. They're especially because they had sort of they were a bit of a one-trick pony with the Sisters of the Thorn that come in this box. And they took that trick away. So, so they're struggling right now to compete in a kill points game. But I do find it hard to believe that they wouldn't be fun to play, and that in a lot of circumstances you're going to have a great time with them, and they're going to be tough for your opponent to deal with. We're just talking about like in tournament play, they are struggling to have an identity right now. I think that's as of recording.
I think they're a great club army though. They're like, especially if you kind of because this is a nice hybrid box, right? This isn't like sit in a back, be a gun line. This is like, do you want to send some very fragile Wild Riders forward? And they're very fun to do that. If they get the charge off, you feel great. If your opponent shuts them down, they feel great. You do have some really interesting utility in the infantry units. Just unfortunately, infantry isn't great. But if the infantry did pop up, that like their utility, how useful they are and dynamic they are, you could do some really fun stuff with them as well. So I would pick this up for Wood Elves, and may even pick it up when this does come around for the Wood Elf release, because I think it's truly excellent and very fun to see. So yeah, I like this as well. Should we get 2?
This is a double boxer. I think you could totally do a double box here, because that's going to give you enough probably for 3 units of Wild Riders, and Sisters of the Thorn. Maybe I'm crazy, but like still a very good casting bunker, like a place for your wizard, your mounted wizard to live, because the unit is got a nice 4-up involved. That hasn't gone away, and randomly you might get Pillar of Fire still. You do wind up with a butt ton of archers, and the Wildwood Rangers and Eternal Guards. So that's maybe moderating, but I think there's a world where you do take a butt ton of archers or Deepwood Scouts or whatever. So it's not a bad, but they're not bad kits to have. And you never know. In the Arcane Journal, we'll see. Maybe there's something that really juices up Wildwood Rangers for the first time in the history of fantasy.
The history of anything ever.
so yeah, like, I mean, they haven't really existed. They lasted, existed for 7 months in Warhammer Fantasy, because they came out immediately before the end times.
They were great, though, at that period of time. They were very good. Wildwood Rangers.
Wildwood Rangers? No.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, we can disagree, but yes, they were so good. In my experience,
someone believed in them. Someone believed in them.
In the UK GTs, they were solid as hell.
Okay, maybe I'm misremembering. I have been wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us. Oh wait, rating 5 out of 5. What do we want? 5.
5 fish. 5 fish.
5 fish. I'm going to also say 5 fish, which is pretty exciting because the 2 battalions that we've got coming up, one's a 4, one's a 5. So maybe
we started with a 5 and a 4, and we end with a 5 and a 4.
A perfect sandwich. There was a lot of shit in the middle, though. Let's be real.
It's a bit of a shit sandwich.
A bit of a shit sandwich.
But that's to be clear, that's the battalion boxes, and that's coming from a perspective of actually building armies. I think some of them were aesthetically bad and maybe gaming bad. But if they sing to you, our opinion shouldn't matter. And you do get you get a ton of stuff in these boxes. So, but yeah, these are our ratings. Tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, that's the real question. And also tell us if you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed us bringing these things. We're trying to really kind of very expansively break down what people think of, our experience and our knowledge on these beginner issues. And I think hopefully that's really useful.
I would also say, Rob, the 9 core armies, they're out. Well, they will be out very soon.
Well, they would be out
very soon.
At the end of this video, they would be out, which is really fun. And then obviously that Cathay box. We've actually also seen the Cathay box, I think, the battalion box for the Cathay box.
Oh my God, that's probably a 6 out of 5. But we while I do feel strongly that it's probably going to be priced at 185, that will be a big moment for Old World.
Crazy.
Where do they price? Where do they price the new boxes? Because if they are just priced like these ones, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. I suspect it'll be a little bit more, but I don't know, because this box is filled with essentially, as far as fantasy is concerned, the newest possible models. It's every one of them. So I don't know. It could be that Cathay just gets priced the same as everybody else.
Be fun to find out. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. Let us know in the comments. Appreciate everyone on the Squarebase Patreon. And if you want to help support us make more content, then please do join up. That'd be cool. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.